April 2020, we were in lockdown, and that week was Passover. We got a note from one of our NSA friends that goes to the service wishing us all a happy Passover. And I thought, we couldn't even go across the street to someone's house, much less across the country to be with family for our Passover Seders. And I thought, let us all meet on Zoom. And we still are doing that 4.5 years later. But one of the people whom I met was Harriet Stein, our speaker. And I was so taken with her because of what she speaks about. And that is who she is: charming, open, kind, supportive, a smile on her face that just lets you know everything's okay. Well, I wasn't the only one that noticed that about her. Very early on, many years ago, that small company called Johnson and Johnson realized that it was a good idea to borrow from Buddhist and Zen and Hindu traditions and bring mindfulness to the company. And not because they wanted everyone to be mindful, it's just that they knew that it would lower healthcare costs and it would reduce employee stress level and increase productivity, which is what every corporation wants. Luckily, they had a nurse in their employ who could teach these techniques to their employees. And our guest speaker, Harriet Stein, taught mindfulness techniques to over 5,000 Johnson and Johnson employees. Well, at some point, several of her friends said, "You're very good at doing this. You should be in business." So she left Johnson and Johnson and went on to create an award-winning mindfulness program. And today, Harriet is going to share some of her life-changing practice that we can put into practice immediately. Because the thing that I like about what she says, it's practical. You don't have to think about it 10 years later. And Harriet, I hope you will tell everyone the wash your hands story, which has particular meaning to managing stress. So please welcome a nurse, an author, a professional speaker, a lovely person, and our very own guest speaker, Harriet Stein from Philadelphia.
Thank you so much, Susan. What a beautiful, beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. Wow, I'm looking at myself. Got to switch that so that I can see all of you. There we go. That's much better. So anyhow, good morning, everybody. So I just want you to know that Fripp and Susan have both told me that you are going to be the best audience I have ever had in my entire life. So I'm very much looking forward to a program where we can have some interactivity, which is why I'm not using slides. So I'm so excited to be able to speak with you for the next 3 hours. Okay, not 3 hours. Okay, I just want to know if you're paying attention because everything today is about paying attention. So it'll be about 30 minutes. And, so right now in the chat, I want you to very quickly rate the percentage of time that how frequently does your mind wander? What is the percentage? What is the number? And I'm going to be looking at the chat. How frequently does your mind wander? All right, they're coming in now 35%, 110%, all right, 90%, 3%. Okay, 5 to 10%, 80%. All right, this is really good. First of all, that you are engaged and doing this with me, which I appreciate, and the fact that it is such a varied response, 50, 55. All right, so here's the answer. The people at Harvard did the research, and 47% of the time our minds wander, except during one activity. And because this is a G-ready presentation today, we are not going to be addressing that one activity that for some reason we are 100% focused on when we're doing it. But for the majority of our day, our mind is wandering. So I invite you today to become curious as your mind wanders, because it's going to be, as I'm speaking. Where is it going? Where is your mind wandering to? Because that is the key to immediately stopping being overwhelmed. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And Fripp asked me prior to this meeting how I even got involved with this. And I was thinking about it, and I have never, ever, in teaching mindfulness for over 20 years, and I have to tell you, Susan, it was surely not Johnson & Johnson's idea, because I'm the one who said to my manager, I would like to do this. And my manager, who was so supportive at the time, said, okay, you can teach, but don't tell anybody. If you've worked at a Fortune 50 company or a large organization, you just keep it quiet and do it, at lunchtime or here. It's how, and then eventually, more and more programs grew out of it. And I had a weekly program there for almost a decade. And then they started flying me around the United States. But it was definitely not their idea. No, it was not. Because so many times at work, it is our good ideas that we bring forward to the companies. So when Fripp asked me that question, I thought about it. And I was like, it was my mom. My mother is the one who, as a child, my whole life would see me overwhelmed with so many different things going on. And she would say, Harriet, the way we go through life and deal with these challenges, because there's always going to be something, is we take it as if we were going up a ladder, one step at a time. She was my first mindfulness teacher. And I look back on these early events in my life and how these people, they weren't telling me they were teaching me a mindfulness practice, but they were demonstrating it to me. For some reason, when I was 5 years old, I liked to begin my day with a very hot cup of tea. Now, I don't know why at 5, this is what I love to do. I still love to do it. I have no idea. But my mom would not permit me to stir the sugar into my cup of hot tea. Except one day, she went and got her hair cut. And my grandfather was babysitting me. And he made me this boiling cup of hot tea. I was all excited. I sat down in my pajamas. And I said, could I please stir in the sugar? I'll be really careful. And he said, okay, be really careful. And what happened? I spilled the entire cup of boiling water down the front of me. Now, when I think back on this event, I don't think back on pain. I don't think back on fear. I think back on compassion, because I think of the non-judgment that my family first showed me and explained this was an accident. I did nothing wrong. And then ending up in the hospital in isolation, literally with a tent made of plastic over me because I couldn't have a sheet resting against my skin. When I think back on that experience, and I remember it all, I remember the nurses carrying me down in a clean sheet to the hallway to have to get bathed 3 times a day so that they could scrub the wounds. When I think back on that, I think back of the compassion, the trust they showed me, the non-judgment, the patience they had with me, in my book, I focus on the 9 attitudes we cultivate for a mindfulness practice. But all of those attitudes that they shared with me and demonstrated with me, that created a much different story in my mind as to what that experience was going to hold for me. And, in hearing everybody talk just now, I was really, everybody is dealing with something. whether they tell you or not, and I'm not going to call out anyone by name, but I'm telling you, everybody on this call today is dealing with something. Everyone, when you leave this call and you have another meeting or you go to the supermarket, every single person is dealing with something, whether they share it or not. And even when Janice said she had some stress in her life because her company and her business has become so positive and so good and it is growing, right? Good stress and bad stress, it's all stress. These are all challenges that occasionally overwhelm us. And the thing is, our bodies don't know if it is real or perceived. So that's why it is so important to notice what it is that we are saying to ourselves in our heads. Because you might not be listening to your body, but your body is listening to you. Your body hears what you're saying in your head. And it's positive, right? You know that. We say loving and caring things to ourselves all the time, right? I'm being facetious. The things we say to ourselves in our head, we would never say to someone we cared about or loved. Never. So mindfulness is a practice of non-judgment. It is paying attention moment by moment with non-judgment, not just for others, but for ourselves as well. We do not want to be beating ourselves up, especially from the inside. I heard Gary Zukav, the Harvard-trained physicist, once say that humans basically have two emotions, love and what is the other emotion? Can you put it real quickly in the chat?
Fear.
Okay, somebody just yelled that out, and it is correct. Yes. Yes, who said it? Raise your hand. Wave at me so I know who did it. I can't tell who did it. But
it was Carol Keeley.
Oh, Carol, you are 100% correct. It is fear. So that is extremely important for us to know. Because, I can tell you when I was leading a team at J&J, and I would, if we were rolling out a new project, I would say, if you are dealing with somebody and you're getting one of those nasty gram emails, or you're talking with someone and they don't seem to be coming at you with kindness, openness, caring, compassion, whatever, ask yourself, what are they afraid of? And it's the same thing, excuse me, I would ask you to question about yourself when you are feeling overwhelmed. What might you be afraid of? Because I was interesting. I heard when we went around the room just now, I heard Tana mention that she was a little bit concerned about a program next week. And I always say, if we knew what was going to happen next week or anything in the future, right, we would have all won the lottery by now. Aliens can land tomorrow. The way the world is happening right now, we have no idea of what is happening next. No idea. But we do get concerned. So I have a tendency, people tend to lean one way or the other when you start paying attention to your thoughts. It is either we are leaning back or forward. So at 2:00 in the morning, do you ever wake up and find yourself you can't get back to sleep? Okay. So for some reason, some people think they're the only people that go through this. So I'm here to tell you that infants can sleep through the night, 8 to 10 hours. Adults do not. We frequently get up in the middle of the night, and that is normal. Okay? And if you are saying to yourself right now, I sleep through the night, I don't have any problem, well, then I will call you Ambien. So Ambien, if you are sleeping through the night, when you wake up in the morning, and not at 2 o'clock in the morning, but maybe 6 or 7 in the morning, I want you to notice what is going across your mind. Are you thinking about something from the past you can never change? Like, oh God, why did I send that email? Or why didn't I speak up in the meeting? Or why didn't I respond to that text? I mean, that's like driving your car and looking through the rear view mirror. How far are you going to get before you hit something? Or are you planning? Oh my goodness, I have to do that. I'm overwhelmed. I have to take care of that person and I have to get back to this person. And how am I going to deal with this on the trip? And I have packing to do and I have family members I have to follow up with. And then that person's going to want to come to my house for Thanksgiving and I don't really want them to come Thanksgiving. And then before I know it, it's going to be Christmas. How am I going to afford to do this? Right? Is it planning or is it maybe a little bit of worrying? You know, there's that wonderful movie called The Bridge of Spies. And in the movie, Tom Hanks asks the Russian spy, you know, that he is dealing with, he's defending, it's a true story. And he says, aren't you scared? Aren't you worried? You know, I mean, this isn't the kind of law I practice. And the Russian spy, I mean, I don't have any tattoos. You might be surprised to learn this. But if I had a tattoo, what the Russian spy says would be my tattoo. He says, would it help? Has worrying ever helped us? Ever? So I had to get onto a very important Zoom meeting. 5 minutes before I get on this meeting, I see I got a text on my phone. I didn't even have time to text them back. So I quickly called the person and my friend said, I have to go to an important business luncheon. I am so scared my hands are shaking. Okay, I knew she had to ground herself in the present. So what I said is, I want you to go and wash your hands right now mindfully and use all of your senses. This is a quick way to immediately come into the present moment. And when I say use all your senses, and you're doing this mindfully, I'm saying that when you're washing your hands, you're not like, oh, my hands look old, or they're dry, or I don't like the soap, or it doesn't smell good. No judging. We're not doing it with judging. We're just using our senses, noticing the smell of the soap, hearing the water. You know, on page 162 of my book, I have all these opportunities, examples after each attitude I talk about where you can place a pause. But with water and washing hands, it is such a quick and easy way to break that overwhelmed cycle that's going on in our heads. By the end of my meeting, I had gotten a text by my friend saying she was safely at the business luncheon and everything was fine. Now, this was a beautiful spring day. It wasn't like it was a winter icy situation outside. To this day, I have no idea why she was afraid of driving. I'm a nurse. My sister's the therapist. It wasn't my place to even ask her. The thing is, I wanted her to realize there was a story going on in her mind. It was not up to me to delve into that. And at some point in your life, you might get a text or a phone call from somebody that's really upset or really concerned, or they've just gotten a bad diagnosis, or they're concerned or scared about something that's coming up. They have to go see a doctor. I want you to realize that you have this practice immediately available for you to use. And one of the attitudes that we use to cultivate a mindfulness practice is gratitude. That's why I use water, because how many times will you be touching water today? When you go to the bathroom, when you wash a pan, right? When you take a bath, when you take a shower. How many people, just write it in the chat real quickly. How many people in this world do not have access to clean, safe water? Yep. How many think? Millions, billions, what do you think? Yep, Bill, you're actually very close. It is 1 billion. 1 billion as in a B. 1 billion people don't have access to clean, safe water. So this is a wonderful way to bring gratitude into our situation and our day to really ground us and realize what is going on in our heads. You know, one of the questions that was asked at the last Golden Gate breakfast meeting that I attended was somebody said, how do you deal with fear regarding real estate? And I thought to myself, I so wanted to answer, but I knew I was coming to speak this week, but I was itchy. Because I thought it's the same way we deal with fear in everything with our life, in every industry. It is first noticing if we are jumping ahead into a future that does not yet exist. Another person asked a question, which I thought was really good, on LinkedIn, when Frit mentioned I was going to be here today, about how to deal with the changing workplace and all the, we thought working from home a lot would be easy and quiet. And instead, when we just went around with the introductions just now, I heard you saying, I have 5 meetings, I have 7 meetings, I have to get back to this person, I have to do this. It is not easier working from home. But I want to tell you a little secret. This thing, this phone thing, right? You know it. They did research on that as well. They tested people with the phone on their desk upside down, and they tested them with the phone underneath the table, and they tested them if they placed the phone in another room. Not surprisingly, the people where the phone was in the other room tested the highest. Even if you think, well, that phone won't bother me, I have it upside down, I have it to the side, it's on the floor, it is still distracting you. If you are trying to be creative, and going back to the hand washing, there's research about that as well, because they asked people to wash dishes, and they said do it mindfully. And the group that was washing the dishes and just washing the dishes and not writing an email in their head, they had increased creativity and less nervousness. So it is the same thing with this phone. If you want to be more creative and productive and less overwhelmed and be more focused, get that phone out of the room. Put it away. Okay, so I'm going to do something that's probably never been done before, and I don't have the time to do it, but I'm still doing it because I'm a nurse. And I teach this practice for a reason. It's one word. 1 word, 2 syllables. Can anybody guess it? Real fast. Just put it in the chat. What is the 1 word as to why I have been teaching this at conferences and in corporations for over 20 years? Anybody have any idea? Okay, Betty, you should know this. You're the nurse. Okay, the 1 word, and I asked this recently to a conference where I was speaking, and somebody yelled out money. I was like, money? No, it's definitely not money. The reason I do this, 1 word, 2 syllables, disease, dis-ease. Yeah. Mindfulness. This practice, when you're paying attention to what's going on in your head and your body and your emotions and everything else, it's all about paying attention. When you're paying attention, it is extremely important because you don't want to have disease. Mindfulness promotes ease. We don't want dis-ease. I, as a nurse, that is my raison d'etre. I don't want you sick. I want you healthy. So nobody's probably ever done this before. I don't have the time. It's going to take 30 seconds. You can turn off your camera or leave it on. I want you very quickly to stand up. Just stand up real fast. Stand up. You don't have to adjust your camera. I can look at everybody's belly button. It is okay. Just stand up. I want you to notice, you can hear my voice. You know, people in France can hear my voice. We're on Zoom. Okay. Notice what it feels like in your body, and I want you to give a little stretch. Just raise your arms, put them up high. If it feels comfortable for you, drop your shoulders, raise your arms, not your shoulders, just raise your arms. Okay, notice if you're trying to reach higher than the person next to you on Zoom. Okay, all right, put your arms down. If you need to twist your side, your back, your hips, I want you to do a little bit of a twist. Okay, just feel that movement and then just sit right back down. Okay, that took 30 seconds. 30 seconds, okay? In the chat, I want to know one word, okay? Did that make any difference in how you feel right now? Yes, no, maybe? Do you feel any difference? Okay. Okay, did you notice we didn't stop and put on $150 sneakers and nobody changed into yoga pants, right? That 30 seconds, okay, is called a microburst. That gives you more energy for the rest of your day, not just the rest of my talk, right? Which I, of course, want you engaged in, but for the rest of your day. So instead of saving all the Q&As for the end, I like to have everything mixed in, and I like to mix things up. So right now, I would like you to do something, and you could always unmute for this, but I would like to know, how did they used to catch monkeys in the jungle? You can
Traps. With a
What was that?
trap. With a trap.
Okay, can you explain the trap?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it was in one of my where they would put honey in a cage, and then once the monkey grabbed the honey, they couldn't release their grip on it, and then they couldn't pull their hand back out. So they were caught because they were attached to the honey and lost sight of their well-being existence.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you another example as to how they used to catch monkeys in the jungle. They would take a banana and they would put the banana in a coconut. And I am going to make sure you can see here. Hold on for 1 second so that I can move this aside. There we go. Okay, so they used to put the banana inside the coconut, tie it to the top of a tree, and then the hunters would just wait. Because the monkey would come along, climb the tree, put their hand inside the coconut and grab onto the banana. There wasn't honey involved. They wanted that banana. Now, how did they get caught?
By not letting go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They refused to let go. It's not that they couldn't, they refused to. Now, here's the thing. As human beings, when you're feeling overwhelmed, frequently there is a friend or a relative, a spouse, a child telling you, will you just let go of it? Just let go of it. You don't have to hold on. You know, it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. Just let go. We as human beings cannot let go of things. Just drop it. That's not the way our brains work. Another way of letting go is doing this. Because I'm asking you to pay attention to these stories that are going across our mind 47% of the time as our mind wanders. Notice what you are saying to yourself. And the moment that you notice, this is a way of letting go. So if you have a pen near you real quickly, can you hold it up? Can you hold up the pen? And just hold it. I want you to hold it really tightly in your hand, like that monkey who did not want to let go of the banana. Real tight. And now let go of it this way and just hold it. Okay? This is a different way of holding on to something. Holding on to a concern we might have, a worry about a family member or a loved one, a worry about what's going to happen in the election. We're still aware that we're worrying, but we are not holding on like this. We notice it, and then this is a different way of letting go. And you can put your hand down now as to how it feels at the body. You know, so frequently we are on autopilot. I mean, you know what it's like to walk into a room and then have no idea why you walk there, you know? Or we get in the shower and we start washing and we wash our hair. We don't know we put the conditioner on, or we put the soap on again and then the conditioner and then the I mean, you know, it's very easy for us to go on to autopilot. But I'm really encouraging you to pay attention because of how valuable this practice is. So some people tell me, oh, I've been practicing for 20, 30 years. And I'm like, that's excellent. And I'm like, so when you're driving down the street and someone cuts you off, what do? And they go, oh. So I'm asking you right now, and you can unmute or you can put it in the chat. When you are driving down the street and someone cuts you off with your car, what do? Anybody want to unmute?
I
Oh,
react.
Pete. I was going to say, Pete, I see you smiling. I so want you to share. But no, if you're anyone who feels comfortable, go ahead. Who unmuted?
I
Well,
will
I
swear.
I just take care of myself because I figure if there's road rage out there, I can escape this in a few seconds, or I can be there for hours with
Yeah.
the cops. So I say I have to look at my alternatives. It's not worth the battle.
That is definitely one way of doing it. That is definitely a healthy way of doing it. Do you still say a little something in your head?
Oh yeah, I swear a lot. But
I swear out loud.
Okay.
I think they made a
Thinking
mistake.
they hear me.
Okay.
I just think they made a mistake. You know, I don't get upset because I'm not a great driver. So I use my own self-talk and I say, well, they must have just made a mistake. I'm okay. Nobody hit me. I'm all right.
Okay. Thanks,
Well,
Emma.
Or it could have been me.
I'd like to give them the finger, but I don't, because the last time, years ago in Texas, the person had a rifle in the back of his pickup truck. So what I do is I do swear, but I also say I give them not grace or gratitude, but I let them in and say, you know, it is how it is, and smile. And, you know, smile at somebody who cuts you off. You know, get over it. It's not a big deal.
Anybody do anything else?
Well, I say he's dumber than me.
Okay.
I'm a bike rider and so bicycle rider. And so occasionally I might encounter, and if it depends on my mood, encounter somebody who makes a turn in front of me and they haven't signaled. And I will bellow at the top of my lungs, signal!
I was cut off recently. The guy gave me the finger after cutting me off. And I decided I was going to pay it forward with gratitude. So I let like 4 people in front of me with a smile on my face.
Right. You know, so here's the thing. Mindfulness is not about being happy. And I don't want to be known as the person canceling out happiness and doesn't believe in happiness. Happiness is wonderful. Okay. Mindfulness is being authentic. And so when somebody does something terrible to you or mean to you or dangerous to you, it is okay to be angry. Okay, when somebody cuts you off, that's a scary moment. And you may immediately respond with anger. Anger is a valid emotion. Okay, if you're pretending to smile when you're really angry, that is very dangerous to our bodies. Okay, so I want you to be authentic. And here's the thing. When we are angry, it's like we're holding a hot coal with the intent of throwing it. Who is getting burned? Okay? So yes, we can be angry for a few seconds or a few moments if we're driving a car. But if you find yourself hanging on to that anger for a period of time, for the next couple of hours or the next hour when you're driving in the car, or then you're getting home and you're, telling your friends or telling the dental hygienist about what just happened to you when you were driving to the dentist, right? It's holding on to that anger. That is the dangerous thing. Because here in Pennsylvania, the first thing when people get cut off, what I frequently see is people, yeah, they hit the brakes so they don't hit them, but a lot of times they then hit the gas because they want to go up and they want to look at the person in the eye. They want to know, are they a man? Are they a woman? Are they old? Are they young? Here, we want to see if they have New Jersey license plates. In New Jersey, they want to see if they have New York license plates. I don't even know the license plates in California that you're looking at, but I bet you were looking at license plates, right? We make up all these stories. Now, what happens if I told you that that person who cut you off was rushing to the hospital because their best friend just broke their leg? We don't know. We don't know. So for those of you that say, I'm giving them grace, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, this practice, it's not about them. It is our practice. It is for us. I want you to notice when you are getting angry and holding on to that for too long. That is the dangerous part. So real quickly, I would like you to take if you can hold your hands up, your body better than I do. Okay, so don't do this if you just had hand surgery. I just had some hand surgery, so I'm not going to do it hard. But I want you to take one finger so that I can see your hands. Take one finger and press it against the palm of your opposite hand so I can see it. Okay, notice where it's making contact. You can feel where it's making contact. Okay, you can stop now and put your hands down. I have asked people to do this my entire life for the last 20 years, it feels. And whether I am in Prague or Istanbul or anywhere, Buenos Aires or New Jersey, when I ask people to take their finger and gently press it against the palm of their hand, they do this. Okay? I never said resist. I never said resist. Another way to do this, to gently press your finger against the palm of your hand, is to do this. This feels a lot different in your body. If you want to try it right now, it's up to you. This is a lot different in your body. But I want you to notice that. Because what happens is the rest of the day and the rest of your life, you're going to come across things. Whether it's an email, whether it's in a meeting, whether it's somebody, a friend calling, where you have the opportunity in that moment to respond or react. Because this is somehow how sometimes when we get overwhelmed, where we're saying yes when we really don't want to say yes. When somebody says, oh, can you take on this new project, right? Or, can you call the doctor for me? Or, can you do the negotiation at the car dealership for me, right? Or, can you deal with the cable company and deal with that? Or can those people come over and spend the upcoming holiday with us and stay in our home? Or, there's going to be this opportunity the rest of today and tomorrow and the next day where you get to choose whether you respond or react. So noticing, once again, all these stories and what you are thinking about in your mind. At the last Golden Gate meeting that I attended of the Breakfast Club, the speaker said, and I'm reading it because I didn't know this. The speaker said, I'll get emotional. Excuse me. They said, Fripp always says, when you count your riches, do you count your money or your memories? I didn't know that. I have been teaching that for over 20 years. If you do not pay attention, because you're lost in thought, and you notice your mind's always wandering about something from the past you regret, you did or didn't do, or something in the future, a plan, a worry, you will not make the memory. Right? You can be on vacation, and somebody posted that on LinkedIn, how they relax and they're not overwhelmed because they go on African safari. And I said, I am willing to bet everything I own that there are people on African safari, their bodies are there, but where is their mind? Are they making the memory? So I would like you to just take a moment and think of the most wonderful memory that you have in your life, a really wonderful, positive, cherished memory that you know where you were, who you were with, maybe what the weather was like, what you were wearing. Is anybody willing to just briefly share a very,
Okay.
Colin, what do you think?
Well, one of the wonderful memories that popped into my head was when I was with the San Francisco Youth Orchestra, San Francisco Symphony Youth Orchestra. We were touring Central Europe, and we wound up in Strasbourg. And it was the best performance space for an orchestra that I'd ever been in terms of acoustics. We were playing the second essay for orchestra by Samuel Barber. And there's a punch chord before the fugue where the orchestra just goes bump. And we're in rehearsal, and the conductor has us hit this chord, and the room, I mean, was so superior to Davies Symphony Hall. The sound traveled so fast and hit us right smack dab in the face after we hit that chord. And the conductor said, hey, let's do that again. Boom! And it was just, and the acoustics, it was a great concert at that time because I could hear the second violins from where I was in my remote perch in the bass section. That I could hear it was just the perfect
You were present.
concert venue.
You were totally present for it. Is there anyone else that can very briefly just share the most incredible, wonderful memory that no matter how long they live, they will never forget it?
I've got one.
Go ahead, Gordon.
When I lost my wife 4.5 years ago, we'd been married 63 years. I lost half of myself. So I enrolled in grad school, seeking a master's degree in English, which I received in May last year. I walked to receive the degree thinking it was not a big deal. It was just what I did next. And when I walked across the stage, the 1,000 graduates on the field and the thousands who were in the stands gave me a standing ovation. And I spoke professionally for a long time and never received a standing ovation, even though I was pretty good at it. And when you ask it, I've sort of set it aside, but that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a beautiful memory. And you were present for it. You weren't thinking about, how am I going to get home after this event and where are we going for lunch? You were totally focused. Janelle, can you quickly share it really fast? I'm running out of time. Go for it.
Yes, for me, and I'm really surprised that I thought of this, but it was the birth of my son. It was in Berkeley, and I realized I was going to be ready to deliver, and I wanted to do it in San Francisco. So my husband and I leaped in the car and drove across the Bay Bridge over to San Francisco General. And at one point, in only 4 hours, that's all it took to give him birth. In that period of time, I realized I was out of control of this process, totally. I mean, I couldn't stop this if I wanted to for anything. And so I just got into that. And then for the next couple of hours while I was actually giving birth, I just focused on everything that was happening inside my body. I had no pain, I had no medication, and it was I gave birth to this beautiful human being. It was the most amazing experience for me. And the first thing I said to my husband was, remember what his face looks like, because I don't want anybody else to take him. I want to keep him.
Thank you for sharing that. So the birth of a child is the number one answer that I've gotten in over 20 years. From
Oh,
both men and women is the number one. And the interesting thing is, and people have shared this with me, that even though their kids sometimes now are 20 or 30 or 40 years old, they still remember the first bath they gave them, like in a tub in the kitchen sink, washing every one of their little fingers.
yeah.
You know?
And their toes.
So, I mean, it's pretty incredible. So, you know, at the before I go into the Q&A part, I wanted to say that, you know, at the end of The Wizard of Oz, Glinda shows up, and Dorothy is like, please, please, you know, get me out of here. What does Glinda say to her? Anyone remember?
Click your heels 3 times and say there's no place like home.
What Glinda says to her. Great try, Colin. What Glinda says to her. Exactly. Before she has to do that, Glinda says, you always had the power. You could have gone home any time you wanted. You always had the power to go home. And the Scarecrow goes, what the? Okay, so maybe he doesn't say that. But the Scarecrow goes, why didn't you tell her before? And what does Glinda say?
You had to figure it out for yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. She had to figure it out for herself. So being present, excuse me, I too am getting over COVID for the first time. Being present for your life is powerful, unlike what living with worry and fear and regret does to our physical and mental health. You always had the power to deal with overwhelm, the power to deal with anything that comes up in your life. I want you to know that you have always had the power. You know, noticing with kindness as you notice your mind wandering today and tomorrow and the next day. I mean, I really appreciate you paying attention and the fact that, you know, the only moment that exists is this one right now. I don't want you to miss it. So I'm available for questions, any questions at all that you have. I would love to answer them.
Well, thank you very much. That was wonderful, Harriet. And just to acknowledge that we've had some of our other members join us, Don Persky, Christine Torrington, Mike Milstein, and a couple more guests. Roger, hello, Roger, and Karen, who you might remember has spoken to us before. Harriet, because of the burn, is that why you became a nurse?
Yeah, you know what? That's a really great question. You're right. It is. It gave me my love of hospitals because they didn't scare me. I still love hospitals, working in them. I still love a good cup of hot tea. And I had to have hand surgery last Monday. And they said, do you want light sedation or local? And I said, well, what does everybody get? And they said, well, they get light sedation because they're scared. I'm like, no. I teach mindfulness. I'll have it under local. And it was almost pain-free, as was the recovery. But the majority of people are getting sedated for no reason. So it is exactly why I think, because I had that experience early on with the hospital, they were so kind and caring. I mean, I remember there were times it was uncomfortable, but that's now how we choose the lens that we want to look at these experiences in our life through. It's our choice. We choose the lens. I don't choose it as a negative experience. I choose it as a profound experience in my life.
All right. The first question after mine comes from past President Kathy.
Good morning, and thank you so much. What a magnificent talk. Thank you. I'm so glad you put it out, all that love in the world. And it's interesting because I catch myself trying to scare myself into better performance. And I realize that isn't necessarily the way to go about doing things. I do want to ask you about your book. I did kind of go off camera for a second and I went to Amazon. And so if you could please share access and the name of the book, I'd love to be able to get a hold of that.
Yes, I will. I don't know. Let's see. Elena, can I ask you, can you go onto Amazon and throw it on there for me? Thank you so much. It's called Perfect. I couldn't figure out a name for the book. It's the power of this, the power of that. And I was sitting at Thanksgiving and I said to my sister, I was thinking when my mom was 58, she got diagnosed with cancer. She was in the hospital, she was dying. And I said, what are you thinking of? And she said, I'm really upset because I haven't had a sick day in 7 years. And I was like, oh, she's still thinking about work. So I put a little sign on her hospital wall that said, perfect attendance is being present for life, not work. So I said to my sister, I think I should call my book Perfect Attendance Being Present for Life. So that's what I did.
Great, great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. And Gordon Hill.
Quickly, you spoke of stress, which is often seen as negative, but many years ago, Hans Selye wrote a book, Stress Without Distress, where he talked about eustress, which is eager anticipation. Would you comment on that, please?
Yeah. So we had to memorize that book basically when I went to school in the 70s in college to become a nurse. Hans Selye's book was we had to mention it in every single paper. So yes, that's why I always say that when we think of something like right now, if I said you won the lottery, even if you didn't, your body would respond in a certain way. Your heart rate would go up, your respirations would go up, your cortisol level, everything would start going up, even if it wasn't true. So that's the way I perceive stress, that whether it is good or bad, our body is going to react to it. So we need to be very cautious with our words and very cautious and careful and mindful with our thoughts. Because we can give ourselves heart attacks or we can give ourselves great joy.
Wonderful. Janelle Barlow next. And I just want to tell Simmer Lieberman, I did see you with your camera on and you look your usual glamorous self, even if you don't feel like it. Okay. All right, Janelle Barlow.
Yes. When I first started in the field of speaking, I was speaking on what we called in those days was stress management. And I realized listening to you how much I miss presenting that work with people. It was appreciated in a way that time management or any of these things just were not accepted, but it really gets to people when they can talk about this. So now I'm working exclusively in the field of complaint handling. And I know that one of the things that people in businesses tell the people who are on the telephone talking with people with their complaints, and the customer gets angry. And of course it evokes a response in the person who's on the phone. And the companies tell them, don't show it.
So here's a really interesting thing. One of my superpowers is dealing with angry people. When I left nursing on the med surg floor, I became a patient advocate and reported to the CEO of the hospital. And I got yelled at and screamed at by patients and their family every day for 8 years. In person, on the phone. I loved it. I loved it because I would say, give me your anger, give it to me, and I'm listening to you. I hear what you're saying and let me investigate. People want to be listened to when they're angry. And I remember telling somebody who they hired to be a volunteer, I said, if I ever hear you say, I know how you feel, you will be fired. He eventually was fired and never forgave me. I said, because you need to listen to people. You know, we all know that with our loved ones, with our spouses, with our children, with our friends, a lot of times they don't really want a solution. They just want quiet. They want you holding the sacred space for them, to just listen and be there for them. That is enough.
Yes. Because frequently they can't do anything about the problem in any case. Nobody can. It's happened. It's in the past. Now, what are we going to do to go on?
Yeah.
Sima has the next question, and then Susan.
I just want to say I absolutely love this. I got my degree because I was such a stressed out mess. I went to school in 1982 and got my master's degree in holistic health education. And I got certified in as a stress management consultant when people thought that was just nuts. You know, what? But it reminds me, number one, like physicians can't always heal themselves. And I appreciate all the reminders today. And I really appreciate the way you phrased everything. You know, you made it so practical. And one question I have is, it sounds like you went to school for this a long time ago. Is there anything that you think has changed in how you are teaching this, or like popular teachings? Because I think a lot of it is we just don't remember, and we need this reminder.
Yeah.
So
well, yeah, that's why for a very, very short period of time, a couple years, people said you need slides, you need more slides, keep doing slides. And I'm like, no, you know what?
Yeah.
For the majority of my life, I have not used slides to teach this. I like a conversation rather than a lecture. I think that's more valuable. By Fripp asking people what they were overwhelmed with, I could then bring that in and then use it. Carl said something about the little things get him, not the big things. And that is actually a quote by my first mindfulness teacher, who's probably one of the most beloved in the world, John Kabat-Zinn, who he says the little things, they're not little. Those little things always get us. They're big. They're really big things. Does anybody else have a question? Yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
Susan has the next question.
Yes, Susan. Oh, you have to unmute.
So I want to know something. What do all the people who don't worry do with that extra time?
They're productive and they're creative and they're laughing and they're making great meals and they're having fun and they're paying attention to that one event where our minds don't wander. They're doing that too. They're doing all of that.
Okay, because I was going to charge more for my consulting for hand wringing and breastfeeding.
Okay.
But I would love, the question I would have is, would you join us again January 8th? Because Dr. Schillinger, who is a doctor here in San Francisco, wrote a book called Telltale Hearts, focused on the fact that doctors don't listen and don't know their patients' stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question to you is, are we beginning to teach this in nursing schools, in medical schools, to make the practitioners aware that this exists?
Yeah, it's really important. I mean, I keep thinking that it is. I don't know if it is or isn't. I would love to do it. I would get in my car and drive to every medical school in this country to teach what I'm teaching. When I was at J&J, I once took vacation from J&J to go to a J&J site to teach. So a lot of people don't do this for free. I sometimes way too much. I just can't let money stand in the way, even though I have to pay for, my things just like everybody else. So it's important. It's really valuable. Is there any other question, or I have a last 2-minute closing?
All right. Are there any? Hey, Janice, are you just waving from your car?
I just wanted to, we stopped for a second. I just wanted to say to Harriet, this was outstanding. I've heard many different people's thoughts about mindfulness, and your approach is so unique. And I love your happy demeanor, of course. If I were in my house, I would have taken pages of notes, but as you know, I'm in a car. but I'm just fascinated, and thank you so much for sharing with us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you doing that during your commute. Normally I would do a 10 or 15-minute version of this. So we're going to do a 2-minute version of this. So I'm going to ask you to just sit up as straight as you possibly can and put your feet on the floor, because there are 3 formal practices of mindfulness, which is sitting, eating, and walking. And I want you just very quickly to experience the sitting. So if you want to put your hands in your lap with your palms open, you don't have to close your eyes. If you want to close your eyes, you can. You don't have to. Just notice, what does it feel like in your body right now? Notice if your shoulders are up around your ears or if they're in a relaxed, neutral position. Noticing if you're holding or clenching anywhere in your body. If your jaw, maybe you're clenching, relax around your jaw. Maybe noticing the weight of your body sitting on the chair. The weight of your hands on your lap. Just getting that sense of what it feels like to being held by gravity, something we rarely consider. And as your mind wanders, just bringing it back to what it feels like right now sitting in your body. And then we just effortlessly, if your eyes are closed, I invite you to open them. That is a practice you can do in under 2 minutes to just ground yourself. So Fripp and Susan, I cannot thank you both enough for allowing me to share this with everyone today. Like I said, it is my raison d'etre. I absolutely love teaching, and I just only wish I was there in person with everyone.
Well, seeing we're all over the country, that would be difficult.
I know.
So thank you. Your fans are also waving to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. To be continued. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. And those in San Francisco can get together for breakfast. Next week, Craig Stewart Adams will be sending you an email. And if you can make a commitment for the Christmas party, also respond to the next email you get from Craig with how many people. Thank you, Pete and Tony and Carl, for everyone who helps make this meeting work. And thank you for your good work, Susan, with all the speakers. We will carry on when you're traveling around Europe and not thinking about it too much. So wonderful members, thanks for tuning in. See you soon. And Harriet, wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.